This is your First Alert Weather Breakdown, a deep dive into how weather works with meteorologist CJ Cartledge.
Good morning, everyone. I'm First Alert Meteorologist CJ Cartledge here. Sorry for that little bit of an echo to start off the show here. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. Once again, I'm First Alert Meteorologist CJ Cartledge here, back on the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown for today here. Now, we have a pretty interesting topic for you guys. It's a little bit different compared to what we have been talking about here on the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown. It's mostly about what's been going on around the country, but for today, we're going to be talking about what goes into our weather forecast. How do we forecast the weather here and the KSLA News 12? Our meteorologists here, me, Evan Thomason, and meteorologist Matt Jones. We all have slightly different things that we look at on a daily basis, but for this episode, I'm going to go into what do I look at to prepare myself to be on screen and tell you guys what exactly is expected to go on around the region here. So we're going to be diving into that just after we go into the local forecast, which is just right now here. And we're going to start off with a live look outside here. Still getting a little bit set up here, but there we go. We're back on track. As you can see, looking outside through our KSLA Tower camera, sponsored by Mattress Plus, we're dealing with hazy conditions once again. It's pretty much copy and paste from what we saw 24 hours ago on the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown. Hazy conditions, mostly sunny conditions, though, nonetheless, above our heads here, and mostly calm winds across the Arklatex as of right now, and we're expecting these same conditions as we move throughout the day today and through the next couple of days ahead, with the exception of maybe an isolated shower or two in the southern half of the Arklatex. But outside of that, that's all it's gonna be happening across the region for today and the rest of this week here around the region. Here's a look at First Alert Doppler radar as of right now, looking outside around the Arklatex here, and nothing much is pretty much going on here. Maybe a little bit of some ground clutter, some defects that's going on with the radar as of right now. But as you can see with temperatures right now, we are sitting at the 90-degree mark on the dot here for Shreveport and Bossier, 86 by Minden and Bienville, 88, or Minden at around 86, 88 for Bienville. Minden and Magnolia look to be at around 86 is what I was trying to say. 83 for Natchitoches, 82 up by DeQueen, and it still feels like, or it still is 79 degrees in Nacogdoches, but it definitely feels like the 80s across the entire Arklatex, if not the lower to mid 90s. Bienville is at a toasty 105. Their dew point temperatures are through the roof, I can tell right now, mainly because of the spread of temperatures and feels like temperatures currently. I believe they were sitting at 88 for the last reading was, and they feel like 105, so their dew points have to be high in the 70s, if not the 80s currently. Just completely disgusting conditions where this radar site or where the temperature sensor is at. It feels like 95 by Texarkana and Shreveport. It feels like 92 by Nacogdoches. And it feels like the upper 80s near Mount Pleasant as well as DeQueen. We're expecting these feels like temperatures to rise towards the mid and upper 90s across the region for today. As temperatures continue to rise, so will those feels like temperatures across the Arklatex. Now, here's a look at our next 12 hours here in the Arklatex here. We should see temperatures rising towards the lower to mid 90s across the region, but some areas could reach into the upper 90s, maybe one or two areas around the Arklatex here, but we're expecting mostly sunny skies and not comfortable. Let me just throw that word out of there. We're not going to be feeling comfortable conditions. My head is still at the weekend where we were feeling definitely comfortable around the Arklatex, but that is over. And we are going to be experiencing hot and humid conditions as we move into this afternoon, despite the lack of cloud cover. And the lack of cloud cover persist as we move towards the evening hours as well. Moving on to highs for today, we should see highs rise into the mid and upper 90s actually across the Arklatex here. Maybe some in the lower 90s near Ruston. And to name a few, 95 for Idabel and DeQueen, 98 by Texarkana, 97 for Shreveport and Bossier, same for Marshall, Longview, and Mount Pleasant, 95 by Minden and Homer. Let's be at around 98 for Texarkana, if I haven't mentioned that already. 96 by Natchitoches and Manny. Same for Coshada as well as Mansfield, around 96 degrees. But highs for tomorrow is expected to reach maybe a degree or two higher around the Arklatex and more into those upper 90s across the region. 96 for east side of I-20, 98 by Shreveport, possibly hitting close to those triple digits by Texarkana. I can tell Henderson, Texas may be above the triple digit mark as they're normally the warmest portions around the Arklatex on a daily basis. In terms of future track feels like temperatures for to this afternoon, we should feel like this is according to one of our models. I believe it's the Euro model. And for a model, what models mean is basically a one model is a computer run based off of different algorithms and what the algorithm thinks that the temperatures will rise to for the day. In terms of feels like temperatures, this model shows that feels like temperatures will reach the lower to mid 90s, maybe some in the upper 90s for this afternoon. But we could very well see, feels like temperatures rise into the mid and upper 90s across the Arklatex here. So this model kind of understates what exactly we could expect here, or understates our forecast. And as you can see, future check feels like temperatures for Thursday is expected to reach the triple digits or higher across most, if not all, of the Arklatex region. And as we move into the next day after that, on our Friday, we could see even higher feels like temperatures across the region, which could very well bring about a heat advisory for the Arklatex. These numbers possibly won't bring a heat advisory, but we could very well see most feels like temperatures reach towards a 105 or get higher than that. So heat advisories definitely have a possibility of being issued as we move towards the later part of this work week. And as we move into Saturday, we're expecting very similar feels like temperatures here, as well as Sunday, with temperatures rising into the lower, or not lower, but mid and upper 90s across the region here, with very low rain chances. We're not expecting much, if any, rain through the rest of this week and into this weekend. So if you have any plans, make sure to stay hydrated while you're outside. Wear light-colored and light-weighted clothing, which we'll get into more in just a bit. And as you can see, for your weekend forecast, we're looking at mostly dry conditions and not too much to really worry about throughout the weekend. Here's our heat safety tips out there. Stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water throughout the daytime hours. Make sure to stay cool by taking frequent breaks indoors or in the shade, or by the AC unit that you may have, whether that be a little fan, a big ceiling fan, or whether that be the AC unit that's in your home or your shelter. Also, try to wear some appropriate clothing for the heat and humidity, especially if it's extremely sunny outside. Light-colored and light-weighted clothing, or loose-fitting clothing, as what this graphic is describing, mainly means don't wear anything too heavy and don't wear anything too dark. Any dark colors like burgundy, black, dark gray, dark blue, any of those dark colors like dark purple, those colors will absorb heat rather than dish heat out or bounce heat right back off of you. The lighter colors will actually make you feel a tad bit cooler as compared to the darker colors, because the darker color clothing absorbs the heat. And if it's heavy on you, it's going to make you feel even hotter. So lightweighted and light colored clothing as you're out and about. Make sure to always download that KSLA First Alert Weather app. If you don't have it already, make sure to download it from your mobile device's app store. It keeps you first aware and first alert to the latest updates we have here in the Arklatex weather-wise. So make sure to download that right now from your mobile device's app store. But another thing that you can possibly experience are symptoms of heat exhaustion as well as heat stroke, faint or dizziness, excessive sweating, cool, pale, clammy skin, nausea or vomiting, rapid weak pulse, and muscle cramps are all symptoms of heat exhaustion. So if you know anyone that suffered from these symptoms before, please make sure that they don't do that, please make sure that they don't suffer from these symptoms ever again by drinking plenty of water and making sure that your body temperature stays regulated by drinking plenty of water. When you drink water, that allows your body to sweat out nutrients. When you don't drink water, your body doesn't have the nutrients to sweat out, and your body's temperature goes out of control, and that's when you're more susceptible to these symptoms that you see here on the screen. For heat stroke, that's a tad bit more worse in terms of its symptoms that it brings and the effect that it can have on your body. No sweating is definitely a big red flag. Throbbing headache, red hot dry skin, or body temperature above 103, red flag. Nausea or vomiting, definitely a red flag. So it could be used for either both. So that's pretty tough. Rapid or strong pulse, and you could also say it may lose consciousness. People can also lose consciousness if they're dealing with heat stroke out there in the high heat and humidity. So if you see anybody suffering from heat exhaustion, make sure to get them out of the heat. Tell them to drink plenty of water and get them a cool shower or a cool compress if they can't take a shower right now, or if you don't have access to a shower immediately. Make sure to put a cool compress on their head or on their body, wherever their body temperature is out of regulation. As you can see, just make sure to get them out the heat, drink water, and get them a cool compress if you don't have access to a shower. And for heat stroke, that's a medical emergency. Please call 911 immediately. Try cooling them down as much as possible until help arrives. Now, let's talk about the tropics real fast here. We're about 10% way of the way through the season. As you can see, it's mainly because of the amount of storms that have happened within the start of the season from June 1st to now, August 6th, and not much has happened here. According to climatology, out in the Atlantic Basin, at most, maybe just north of or just higher than 15 storms have happened, according to climatology. And that climatology dates back to, I believe, 1991 here in the Arklatex, but not in the Arklatex, but the Atlantic Basin. But we still have a good chunk of the season left to go, and that's mainly because of the amount of storms that have happened according to the past 30 to 50 years here in the Atlantic Basin. But as you can see, we're about to hit the peak time for this year's hurricane season, and it seems to be firing up right on time as we reach the seasonal peak for this season here. But as you can see with Tropical Storm Dexter, it's actually intensifying as a tropical storm. It now sits at 50 miles per hour sustained winds, and the pressure just dropped below 1,000 millibars. So that means that's another sign that it is increasing in intensity, and it's moving east-northeast at around 13 to 15 or 15 now miles per hour at a constant rate as of right now as also. So this storm here, from what meteorologist Evan Thomason told me as soon as I came in this morning at around 42 minutes ago, he was talking about how this storm is expected to encounter with a upper level trough and become an extra tropical storm, and that's the reason why it's intensifying in cooler waters here. So it's expected to continue to make its way to the east northeast and slowly intensify to around 70 miles per hour. And that 70 mile per hour threshold is actually just shy of Category 1 strength. So it's expected to intensify as a storm as it encounters cooler waters, and it also interacts with the upper level trough that it is meeting as it moves east northeast. So it's expected to intensify before it starts to weaken, heading towards the Great Britain area and over to the other half of the Atlantic Ocean, the eastern half of the Atlantic Ocean. But as you can see, for this area of potential development, not much here is really going on. Actually, that orange X denotes that there's a low pressure system starting to form there. So not much is really going on, yes, but something has a chance of forming in this orange zone. It actually has a conducive environment for tropical development. It now sits at a 40% chance of formation within the next 7 days and 10% within the next 2 days ahead. We'll be watching that very closely, as it could bring heavy rainfall to the Carolinas and the Atlantic coast states near Georgia as well. And this area of potential development has moved off the coastlines of Africa and now is in that conducive environment where it could start to form into a tropical storm. It's given a medium chance, almost a high chance of formation within the next 7 days and 20% within the next 2 days. And right now it's expected to remain a fish storm, which means it remain at sea. We've gone through 4 names already so far this hurricane season, and the next name on the list would be Aaron if any of these other potential areas to turn into a tropical storm. The next name after that will be Fernand here for the region, which would be our 6th named storm of this year's hurricane season. And here are the numbers, the forecast for this year. Colorado State forecast 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. The NOAA prediction is within that range of or has a range that includes the Colorado State prediction, and the average is 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So we're maybe slightly above average in terms of the storm activity for this year. Now let's look at the 7-day forecast real fast here. We're taking a look at temperatures remaining in the 90s through the rest of the forecast period. For our forecast high, we're expected to remain in the mid and upper 90s across the region, possibly hitting close to that triple-digit mark once again, heading into our Friday and Thursday as well. Heading into this weekend, dry conditions, mostly sunny skies, and calm conditions here on the ground as well, but it still will be hot and humid, so make sure to take care of yourself by drinking a lot of water. Make sure to stay indoors or try to take frequent breaks indoors, and wear light colored and lightweighted clothing. For Monday and Tuesday, we should see very similar conditions with just rain chances rising being the only difference in the forecast as compared to the first or the next 5 days ahead of us. Now, coming up after this quick break, I'll be talking about what goes into our weather forecast real fast, and then we will be ending off the show. So I'll be back in just around 2 minutes. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. We're gonna jump right into what goes into our forecast here in the at the KSLA First Alert Weather Team. And what goes whenever I come into work, the first thing I look at is the NWS Shreveport page, just to get a gist of what's to expect for the day around the Arklatex. Some other products that I look at here, I will describe for you here as we look into the websites real fast here. This is the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Shreveport, Louisiana. This is their website here. And this is the first thing I see here. Heat risk increasing, which denotes that day by day, highs are expected to remain in the mid and upper 90s and slowly grow as the days progress here. And this is pretty much what I get my forecast from. And that's why we're dealing with the most likely hot and humid and dry days that we have ahead here in the Arklatex. So that's pretty much gives me a gist on what to expect here. They also have heat safety reminders. As I mentioned before, stay hydrated, limit your time outdoors, have AC. If you have AC, use it, and wear light colored and lightweighted clothing as well. It even gives you like a maximum temperature forecast for areas around the Arklatex and not just for Shreveport and Bossier, of course. But as you can see for Shreveport and Bossier, we're expecting the mid and upper 90s through the rest of the forecast period here. Maybe some lower temperatures in some spots by the time we hit next week. But through the next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we should see all orange colors there with mid and upper 90s expected here. Possibly some areas getting close to that triple-digit mark. But if you scroll down here, this also shows you like the warnings, advisories, and watches that are in effect right now. There's just a hazardous weather outlook for areas just to the north and west of our area, and as well as the air quality alert over just out to the west outside of our region here near Tyler. But also another website that I look at is the Weather Prediction Center. This is where I go to try to find the weather pattern that's going on here around the Arklatex or around the country, or if anything is going on around the country, that gives us a gist on what's to expect here. And as you can see, there's a lot of markings here on the screen, but just to simplify it, the yellows are not the yellows, but the blue. The main things to look at are the blues and the reds. The reds denote the low pressure, and the red L's denote the low pressure, and the blue H's and the blue lines that you see there, the cold front, that denotes a cold front. And this is also a little bit of a occluded front, which I won't get too much into that. But this is also a stationary front down here, which is bringing showers and storms to the Atlantic coast and the Gulf Coast states, and especially the southern Gulf Coast states as well. But we're dealing with high pressure as of right now, which is more than likely sitting right here, which is why most areas in the area that I'm circling here is mostly dry and are expected to be mostly dry by this is Wednesday afternoon here, according to Zulu time. But as you can see, it gives you like a forecast on how the fronts will move and if it will receive rain. The green denotes the rain chances that we have here. So we may see rain chances rise by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as well. And throughout the period that we see here, the near future, throughout the rest of the week, we should see mostly dry conditions. Nothing much expected here within the Arklatex. This is the Arklatex down here in that 4-state region that you see. I'm circling there on the screen. There's also QPF, which is quantitative precipitation forecast. This lets you know how much rain is on the way through the rest of the next 7 days ahead. So day 1 to 7, not much rain for the Arklatex, maybe a drop or two, isolated shower or two, similar to what we have been saying on air throughout the past couple of days or so. There's also the next 1 to 5 days, 1 to 3 days, and 1 to 2 days. So it gives you a lot of great outputs and also excessive rainfall outlook. We're not expecting much for here in the Arklatex. It also gives you a winter weather outlook next 3 to 7 days in terms of the fronts and everything moving around and things like that and things of that nature. And also, this is another product that we look at that we don't look at for much here in the Arklatex, but this is for Severe Weather Storm Prediction Center. This is the risks. This is where we talk about where we get the information about the marginal risk and a slight risk of severe weather. We're not expecting anything through the next 3 days. That light green color is the general forecast, which means showers and storms will be possible here for the Arklatex, but not very likely. And once you get to the next day 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8, not much is really expected to go on here, especially since we're in the summertime. This is also the area forecast discussion. This is something we read very fast here, or very quickly, just to get another gist of what's to expect for the day. There's a lot of weather knowledge like synoptic, frontal boundary that most people may not understand, but we understand here in the Weather Center. Of course, because we went through the schooling and everything. And this is also the National Hurricane Center. This is where we get the information from about the chances for potential development out there across the Arklatex. With Tropical Storm Dexter, that's disturbance 1 that has a 40% chance within the next 7 days, and this one that has a 60% chance within the next 7 days. So this is just a quick gist here. I kind of ran out of time because I was yapping too much about the local forecast. So my apologies about that. But those pretty much what goes into my forecast here around the Arklatex is pretty much what I'm going to be doing right now after this podcast ends here. But thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you guys tuning in for today. I won't be on through the rest of this week, but I may be back on by the time we hit our next work week here. So make sure to enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be on air on KSLA News 12 at noon as well as 4 p.m. today. Make sure to tune in for that. Chief Meteorologist Matt Jones will be on at 5, 6, and 10. And make sure to have a great rest of your day. Make sure to stay dry, stay cool. Of course, stay dry. It's not going to be raining much around the Arklatex, but make sure to stay cool out there. Drink plenty of water, wear lightweighted clothing, as well as stay weather aware. And make sure to take frequent breaks from being outdoors for so long. right next to the shade or right in the shade, indoors, or by the AC. So make sure to have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later.